Good evening, everyone. Welcome to your Weazel News. We are your journalists, Belle and Kraft. Joining us tonight, our own Assistant Chief number 101, Sassy, is joining us. How are you doing today, Sassy?
I'm doing fantastic, Belle. Thank you for having me tonight.
We're glad to have you, and thanks for setting some time aside so that we can do these interviews with you. So we heard, the little bird told us that the Pacific Bank was robbed recently. Can you share some details about what happened at the robbery?
I mean, it's like any other dispatch call that we receive. We go and investigate it and make sure that it is a legitimate concern, and then we assess the situation when we get there. This one a little bit new for us because obviously Pacific requires an extensive bit of background knowledge of the bank itself, and then ensuring that we've got a dedicated team ready to support them at any given moment. And it just so happened that everything kind of collided perfectly that night.
And let's say whereabouts was the robbers last seen so we can warn our viewers out there to be wary and careful around those areas.
If I'm being quite honest with you, I know we have a few different directions that include along South Side and then near the Mirror Park area. But their last known location is kind of fuzzy for all of us, unfortunately.
I see. I'm sorry to hear about that. Are they still at large, or do we need to be looking out for these people?
We do know the vehicles that were utilized, but we don't actually have plates. We don't know who any of these individuals were. Unfortunately, they all were masked at the time and well clothed, so we don't have any real information or any kind of leads at this time. But if you do happen to know any information, we would love to, reward any kind of clues that will lead to their arrest.
Awesome. Is there a certain number or contact, or just show up at the police station if they have any information?
So if you use your service app on your mobile device, you can actually contact LSPD directly through there. We do receive messages, so if you want to text in or if you want to call, we can answer to both of those.
All right. Sass, so no information at all. Can you tell us anything of what these people were wearing, hair color, absolutely anything?
So a lot of this kind of, we try to keep some of this information confidential for police records until we're able to actually release it to the public. We know that there was a couple vehicles, some STIs. One of them was a teal in color, had these beautiful, um, they're kind of like a orchid, like a almost cherry blossom livery that was on it. The other vehicle that was an STI had a maroon, like burgundy pattern that also shared that same livery. And then the third vehicle was actually from one of our own. It was from Mr. 301 Richardson. He actually was had his vehicle confiscated from him from Los Santos Customs.
Wow, I hope you're doing something about that. Tell him to get his car under control.
Unfortunately, in that case, I wasn't there, so I don't know what happened. From what I understand, it was pretty forcibly taken from him.
All right.
So,
Well, off that topic, we hear you're running for sheriff. What can you tell us about that?
well, it's honestly a very humbling experience to be a part of such a great team that I work with now. And the fact that I am campaigning for sheriff is really mind-boggling to me. It truly is such an honor to have the opportunity to represent the department on this facet, and to be, I don't want to say in competition with because that sounds bad, but essentially I'm in competition with great people like Max Fury. Yeah, and it's so humbling for me to be kind of paired up with the likes of him as a competitor in this race.
Very nice. What do you hope to do as sheriff?
So you see, a sheriff is just a extension of what the police department is, right? We aren't any better than LSPD. LSPD isn't any better than they would be. But it's an opportunity to help spread the department out towards the county side, up towards Polito. Part of this gives a lot more opportunity out there, gives businesses a chance to grow and to move northward. Dare I say it like this, but it gives any citizen who wants to, try their hand at different activities, to put it politely, an opportunity to go out there and just experiment and, experience life a little bit. It gives wildlife opportunities for, if we wanted to expand a ranger division, for example. There's just a lot of stuff that presents itself if you have a department that can help monitor and oversee the county side and in the Toledo area.
Very nice. So you talked about Fury, but what about Blair? We heard she might be in the running.
Um, sorry, excuse me. I was actually unaware of that. Honestly, at that point, I probably would say vote Blair for sheriff. She's got a
Whoa.
personality
Oh, wow.
behind her that just can't be beat. She's got a attitude that is just absolutely positive and fervent on just bringing smile and love and laughter to everybody she comes across. And that's something that I really admire. I think it's a great twist when it comes to something like the county side, especially if you're looking at an animal division like the Rangers. It having that nurture and compassion for animals, for example, is a great way to help expand on that. I think Blair would make a great fit in that position as well.
That's great to hear. I mean, it does sound like a lot of big changes are going to be happening. So, on the topic of change, how do you personally plan to change as the sheriff? Do you plan to maybe act a little differently, change current behaviors? Are we planning to see the same Sassy we always known and love?
Well, obviously, so from a position like 100 and 101, as chief, assistant chief, we do have to carry ourselves with a certain professional demeanor. And that's no different going over into the countryside, right? I'm still going to be in a position of leadership. If I'm elected to that position, I still have to represent myself in the department that I'm serving, and be an example for the community that I get the opportunity to serve. So as far as like who I am, personal person wise, like that's not going to change. I'm at the end of the day still Sassy Wentworth, and my mission, my goal, my mo, whatever you want to call it, has always been, being a man of the people for the people, not we the people, but
Yeah, that's a totally different group of people.
exactly, exactly, exactly.
And so you were talking about how you plan to have some of the things stay the same. Are we going to see some new rules up in the countrysides? Are we going to see some of the same things as LSPD? Is there anything else that's going to stay the same?
All right. So this is um this is a very interesting question. And what I like about it is, I do want to represent myself a little bit better in the opportunity I get a chance to move out there, right? But one of the things that I would love to see, LSPD being full of, the city life, they are very fast paced, very fast moving. The nice thing about going over to sheriffs, having an opportunity to
Mhm.
really build a program from the ground up, you get to be a lot more personable with those you work with. The training regimen, if I have the opportunity, would become a lot more personable. Being able to properly train officers, from start to finish, and actually give them the time they need instead of trying to rush them through some of the materials that they need to cover just to get them out in a vehicle on their own. That's one of the big things that I'm looking at. I mean, that's changes that we're looking at implementing here into LSPD as it is, but when you have a department that's from the ground up, it's an opportunity to really start fresh with that.
Awesome. I love to hear that. So earlier you were talking about branches of BCSO. So I was wondering, are you actually going to open different branches like for animals, or are we going to see like rangers being like a side branch? What are your plans for that?
So at this time, the main goal would just be getting BCSO off the ground. And once we get that developed and then have a bit of uh, you know, recruits underneath of us on our roster, then looking to expand out into those other areas. Rangers especially being one that I want to look at, because I know fishing wise, we have a lot of great lakes and ponds and rivers out there. That would be a great place to help preserve, to ensure that we're not seeing any kind of illegal fishing going on, as well as the hunting grounds. I'd love to see hunting grounds really make an avid return, but then we have to work on preventing, illegal poaching and hunting and things of that nature. So it's a lot of growth opportunity that can't really be put into stone right this moment, but different things that we do have in mind. I'd love to see, you know, make a return or make a appearance.
Very nice. Love to hear it. So let's say the cards align, everything's good. You become sheriff. How do you plan to take care of the criminals, their sentences, all that?
Well, the one thing about BCSO is it typically is located in Sandy Shores, which is right by Bolingbrook. So one of the personal touches I want to add to BCSO, is the Department of Corrections, trying to give a little bit more of a background on that, because as a LSPD officer, we have no formal training when it comes to the Department of Corrections right now. And specifically, what I mean is, we don't have anybody that goes in and patrols Bolingbrook, especially if a criminal is sent there. Um, we transport them and then finish up the processing there, and then we go on our way. So I want to incorporate some sort of training regiment with Bolingbrook, in conjunction with BCSO, to really, like I said, give that personal touch and teach our fellow deputies that it's not always about processing somebody for the max amount of time. People have changed behaviors. Not everybody does something because they, are just criminal in nature. Sometimes people do things because they feel it's the only option they have. I, even with me starting out many years ago, that's kind of how I got started. It was a big city, and I didn't know anybody, and I kind of got pulled in. The wrong crowd kind of taught me a few things, gave me a weapon, sent me on my way, and I had to do time too. But I mean, you can see from back then to now, I am not the same person, and that's something I want to
Mhm.
implement. Somebody at Bolingbrook taught me, pulled me aside, and said, "Hey, something doesn't seem right about this, and the behaviors that you're uh, replicating. Maybe is there something going on? Like, somebody just took the time to sit down with me, is what I'm saying." And so I want to add that as a nice personal touch with BCSO.
Very nice. So, any last words, any messages for the viewers of Weazel News out there watching?
Well, I mean, outside of completely stealing Fury's campaign slogan because I thought it was perfect and I haven't seen him actually campaign and utilize it. Um, Not really. I think we've got great candidates for BCSO. The only thing I say is, at the end of the day, we're still one department under one banner, right? LSPD is not better than BCSO and vice versa. It's all a matter of we're working together to create a brighter and better future for tomorrow.
Very nice. I would like to thank you for your time, taking you time out of your day to come over here.
Well,
It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you again for being on our first episode of Weazel News, everybody, and everybody out in the audience. Thank you for showing up today.
Thank you
Um,
all.
we appreciate it. Thank you, Kraft, for being my co-journalist here.
No problem. No problem. Glad to
And
be
thank
here.
I'm so glad you're here. I don't think I could do this. And thank you again, Sassy, for giving us your time.
Again, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate you guys bringing me on today.
And I'm gonna say thank you everyone else for coming out today. And I hope you enjoyed our little news. I'm sorry, the words are escaping me now. Our little news interview.
Thank
That's
you,
the
ladies
word.
and gentlemen, for stopping by and viewing the Weazel News very first episode. It's been a true honor and pleasure to have you guys with us today, and we look forward to seeing you with the many more episodes here to come.
And hopefully
Perfect.
more polished.